Ladies and gentlemen, hello over there. You're watching Al24 Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers. And to the headlines. Algerian Prime Minister received at the government palace in Algiers the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Zambia. As the UN Special Representative in Libya, Abdullah Batili, met with the members of the Municipal Council to discuss the political situation, the government of the National Unity conducted airstrikes against smuggling networks on Thursday. As the tensions rose between the Kremlin and the West, Russia and Belarus have signed documents allowing for the placement of Russian nuclear weapons on the territory of Belarus. Despite the North's warning, the South Korean and US militaries conducted large live-fire drills near the border with North Korea. Hello again and welcome. Algerian Prime Minister Ayman Ben Abdulrahman received on Thursday at the government palace in Algiers the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Zambia, Nele Kashomba Mote, who is on a visit to Algeria. A statement of the Prime Minister indicated that during this meeting, the two sides discussed the close historical relations that bind Algeria and Zambia and ways to enhance bilateral cooperation in various fields, including parliamentary field. The meeting was also an opportunity to discuss regional and international issues of common interest. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Zambia, Nele Kashomba, was received by the Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, with whom she examined ways and means to boost relations between Algeria and Zambia. The two sides hailed the role played by parliamentary diplomacy in consolidating the relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries. They also stressed the importance of intensifying inter-dialogue and consultation with the aim of encouraging understanding and consensus. Trade exchanges between Algeria and Arab countries exceeded during the past year the threshold of $5 billion, an increase of 11% compared to last year. Meanwhile, transactions with Tunisia, Algeria's largest Arab trading partner, increased by more than 12%, exceeding $1.1 billion. Tunisian President Kais Saied received the financial statements for 2022 from Marwa Abbasi, the governor of the Central Bank of Tunisia, where they discussed the crucial role of the Financial Analysis Committee in identifying sources of suspicious funds that have been and continue to be utilized by illegal parties. The statement from the Tunisian presidency emphasized the need for appropriate measures to address this issue. In Africa, still, the head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, Abdullah Batili, talked and stated that there are many challenges and obstacles hindering the holding of the elections expected at the end of this year, calling on the internal parties to cooperate and overcome the differences. Mohammed Khatou.
Despite the positive progress achieved in Libya over the last months, Libya's hopes for holding free and fair national elections before the end of this year are still facing obstacles and challenges. The head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, Abdullah Batili, warns against those challenges and obstacles, which require the unified efforts of all Libyan parties.
We realize that there are more challenges and obstacles still facing Libya, such as ensuring a safe and sound environment for holding elections, addressing the dilemma of armed militias, fostering national reconciliation and transitional justice, and protecting human rights and international humanitarian law.
During the first meeting of the Security Working Group, Batili warned of the repercussions of the security situation in Sudan on the Libyan state.
The conflict raging in Sudan directly threatens security in Libya and stability in the south of the country and in the entire region. This situation threatens to undermine the efforts of international community in support of peace and democracy, either in Sudan or Libya.
The UN envoy confirmed, on the other hand, the ability of the Libyan internal parties to overcome the current challenges, provided they cooperate with each other and iron out all their divergences.
I count on your cooperation in creating the appropriate conditions to achieve peace and stability in Libya, which will also benefit the region and neighboring countries. I urge you to seize this opportunity to consolidate your achievements and overcome your differences.
The recent achievements made by the Libyans are likely to enhance the chances of organizing comprehensive national elections in the country by the end of this year, thus ending a decade-long political and security crisis.
In Libya, still on Thursday, the government of national unity in Tripoli said it had carried out airstrikes against smugglers of fuel, drugs and people in the western coastal area of the country. 3 residents of the city of Zawiya, west of Tripoli, said that they had heard blasts in the city over the 2 past hours, and local media reported that drones had targeted armed factions there. The ceasefire agreement between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces entered its 3rd day on Thursday, but both parties have been accusing each other of violating the truce. Sudan Doctors Syndicate reported that the death toll among the civilians has now reached 865.
Despite international mediation and previous truce attempts, the sound of artillery and gunfire continues to echo throughout Sudan. Armed clashes between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces have persisted, despite the short-lived calm brought by the current ceasefire agreement mediated in Jeddah by Saudi Arabia. The Sudanese army has accused the rapid support forces of violating the armistice, while emphasizing its commitment to self-defense and the state.
The rebel militia continues to violate the declared truce since its inception. According to the Jeddah Agreement, your armed forces affirm their commitments to maintain the humanitarian truce without compromising the right to defend oneself and the state.
In response, the rapid support forces have accused the Sudanese army of breaching the humanitarian armistice by bombing their positions in multiple areas. They have called on what they described as coup plotters to respect the ceasefire.
In an obvious violation of international laws and norms and a breach of the short-term ceasefire agreement signed in the city of Jeddah, the forces of the putschists and the extremist remnants of the defunct regime violated the declared humanitarian truce and attacked our forces in a number of axes through warplanes, artillery shelling and ground attack.
Tragically, the war between the conflicting parties in Sudan continues to claim the lives of innocent civilians. The Sudanese Medical Union has reported that the death toll among civilians has now surpassed 860 people since the clashes between the army and the rapid support forces began last month. Many more injuries and deaths remain unreported as people struggle to reach hospitals due to the worsening security situation. The situation in Sudan is growing increasingly complex and has severe implications for the deteriorating humanitarian crisis. Over 1 million people have been displaced within the country due to the ongoing fighting and chaos.
Countries from around the world gathered at the United Nations to pledge $2.4 billion in humanitarian assistance for the Horn of Africa on Wednesday. A meeting called to address the threats faced by 43 million people in Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia, saw representatives from countries like Germany, Sweden and Canada offering to increase donations from their original goals. According to the United Nations, crises brought on by drought, displacement and food insecurity require at least $7 billion for the Horn of Africa region.
Crisis atop of crisis is threatening the lives and livelihoods of millions across the Horn of Africa. The longest drought on record, mass displacement after years of conflict and insecurity, skyrocketing food prices, and now chaos and fighting have engulfed Sudan, radiating instability across the entire region. I call on donors and the international community to urgently fund the 2023 humanitarian response plan for the region. Today, they are just close to 20% funded, and this is unacceptable.
Still in African continent, nearly 1.5 billion Africans celebrate the 60th anniversary of the founding of the Organization of African Unity under the slogan, Africa is our future, in complex international settings characterized by a global state of divergence in conjunction with the continental efforts to neutralize Africa from the geopolitical tensions taking place without neglecting the expansion of African participation in international forums and bodies. In a different matter now, Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister held talks with Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia in Beijing on Thursday. They also exchanged views on issues including China-Africa cooperation amid care and promotion from leaders of the two countries. The China-Ethiopia Comprehensive Strategic and Cooperative Partnership has experienced fast development in recent years, with bilateral pragmatic cooperation deepening, friendship taking deep roots in the hearts of the people, said the Chinese Foreign Minister.
Africa was the first continent I visited when I was appointed as Chinese Foreign Minister, and among my destinations, Ethiopia was the first country I visited during the trip, since we have established diplomatic ties for over half a century. The two countries have been supporting each other, helping each other, setting an example for unity among developing countries and win-win development.
It is a pleasure to be here among friends and comrades. Since the establishment of our formal diplomatic relations in 1970s, Ethio-China ties are delivering comprehensive benefits to the two peoples at national levels, as well as on regional and international affairs.
In the Middle East, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the number of injuries caused by occupation bullets in the Aqabata Jaber camp has reached 13, with one individual in critical condition. Local sources stated that a large contingent of the occupying army stormed the camp from various directions, occupying roof troops and surrounding a house. The occupation forces fired live bullets and launched both young and man houses. 14 young men were injured by live ammunition, and medical personnel were prevented from entering the camp to provide treatment. Iran successfully test-launched a ballistic missile with a potential of 2,000-kilometer range on Thursday. State media said that 2 days after the chief of Zionist armed forces raised the prospect of action against Tehran over its nuclear program, State TV said it was the launch of an upgraded version of Iran's Kohar Mashar, four ballistic missiles with a range of 2,000 kilometers and able to carry a 1,500 kilogram warhead.
One of the distinctive features of this missile is that it evades radars and cuts through the enemy's air defenses. The Ministry of Defense message to our enemies is that we are determined to defend the country and the achievements of the Islamic Revolution, and we have shown the enemy that they cannot stop the growth and progress of our youth.
In Europe now, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has said that Russia and Belarus have signed an agreement on the deployment of Russian tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus amid growing threats on their western borders. Shoigu added that the Belarusian side received the Iskander-M operational tactical missile system capable of using missiles not only in conventional but also in nuclear equipment.
Today
we will sign documents defining the procedure for maintaining Russian non-strategic nuclear weapons and a special storage facility on the territory of the Republic of Belarus. Russia does not transfer to the Republic of Belarus nuclear weapons. Control over them and the decision to use them remain with the Russian side.
The Wagner founding group, in a video published on Thursday, that said that his group has started withdrawing its forces from the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut and transferring its positions there to regular Russian troops. Earlier, Wagner Group announced the capture of Bakhmut on May 20 after the longest and the bloodiest battle of the war. European Union has frozen 200 billion euros worth of Russian central bank assets since the start of the conflict in Ukraine. The EU reported the number after releasing its 10th sanctions package adopted in February. Earlier, the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, claimed that EU countries have frozen Russian assets worth more than 300 billion euros. In the same line of thought, the Russian Foreign Ministry stated that the Chinese envoy to Ukraine, Li Hui, is due to hold talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow today, Friday. On Thursday, the EU told China's envoy that it expected Beijing to help push Russia to stop its special military operation in Ukraine and withdraw from the country. China accused the United States and its allies of waging a disinformation campaign Thursday after Washington and its Western partners and Microsoft said state-sponsored Chinese hackers had instructed or rather introduced critical U.S. infrastructure networks. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Niong said that the report is extremely unprofessional and contains a missing chain of evidence. The claims were echoed by the United States and its allies in the Five Eyes Security Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, accusations Beijing denied on Thursday.
We have taken note of the report. I would like to say that it is a report that has been patched together with a serious lack of evidence and is extremely unprofessional. We have also noted that similar reports have been released simultaneously by government agencies, such as the US National Security Agency and relevant agencies in the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and other countries. It is clear that this is a collective disinformation campaign by the US to mobilize the countries in the Five Eyes Alliance for geopolitical purposes.
South Korean and US militaries conducted large live-fire drills near the border with North Korea on Thursday, despite Pyongyang's warning that it won't tolerate what it calls an invasion rehearsal on its doorstep. Nabil Khazini.
These are not scenes from a war, although they look like. But this is how defending a full-scale attack from North Korea resembles for Seoul. Some 2,500 troops from South Korea and the United States took part in the largest ever live-fire joint exercises, which will be held 4 more times from now until mid-June. The exercises involve more than 600 weapons systems, including fighter jets, attack helicopters, drones, tanks, and artillery. The exercises mark the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the military alliance between Seoul and Washington. Both sides seek deterrent measures to North Korea's nuclear threats. Pyongyang didn't immediately respond to that. Last week, North Korea said it won't tolerate what it calls an invasion rehearsal on its doorstep. In another step for control extension, the two Koreas are speeding up. South Korea launched its homegrown Nuri space rocket after the launch was cancelled a day earlier due to technical glitches.
4세대 소형 위성 2호의 경우
Regarding the next generation small satellite, we confirmed that the King Sejong station in Antarctica received the signal from the satellite. Following the successful second launch from last year, today's third launch was an opportunity not only to confirm the capability of the rocket Nuri, but also our capability of operating satellites and space research.
발사 서비스는 물론
Korean state media reported that Kim Jong-un had agreed to launch North Korea's first military spy satellite. Kim said it was necessary to confront Washington's and Seoul's threats. The satellite will improve North Korea's surveillance capability, enabling it to hit targets more precisely in the event of a possible war.
French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna is set to visit Rome on Thursday for talks with her Italian counterpart Antonio Tajani, as both countries grapple with a diplomatic crisis fueled by differences over immigration policies. Colonna's meeting with the Italian Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, a prominent figure in the right-wing Forza Italia party and the party of the conservative coalition led by Giorgia Meloni, comes after the cancellation of the Italian Foreign Minister's planned visit to Paris. This cancellation was prompted by the statement made by French Interior Minister on May 4th, accusing Meloni of failing to effectively address the migration crisis. And now for more international news all over the world. Let's tackle this report by Marwa Blair.
A car has collided with the front gates of Downing Street, where several government departments are based, London police said on Thursday. Police said there were no injuries and a man was arrested at the scene on suspicion of criminal damage and dangerous driving.
No! Stop it!
Protesters took to the streets of Miami following Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' 2024 presidential race campaign launched Wednesday. DeSantis is stepping into a crowded Republican primary contest that will test his national appeal as an outspoken cultural conservative and the party's willingness to move on from former President Donald Trump. The Republican is under immediate pressure to bounce back after his campaign launch.
Much of the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam was without power and water after a typhoon packing ferocious winds and torrential rains battered the island but caused no reported fatalities or major injuries. People in Nashik district in India's western Maharashtra state say they need access to clean water as they resort to lowering themselves into wells to collect water in soaring temperatures. The head of the village of Koshimbada in Nashik district said that women were risking their lives as they climbed down the side of the village well using ropes to reach the depleted water source at its base.
Now, ending up our news with sport, as AC Roma coach Jose Mourinho held on Thursday a media conference as part of the UEFA Media Day, 6 days ahead of the Europa League final against Seville. Jose Mourinho, the Portuguese, once again turned down the rumors on his future outside Rome and outlined that he was only focused on the upcoming Europa League final next week. The special one, Mourinho also highlighted that Paulo Dybala could be out in the final since he is still recovering, reiterating that he had a slight focus on the Serie A table position of his club because all his thoughts flow on the European final game, hoping that he will bring Giallorossi back to the top stages.
La mia unica focus è la finale.
My only focus is the final. I think a little bit about the game against Fiorentina, but my only focus is the final and nothing else. I'm not worried about my future or anything else. Everything becomes secondary when you play a final. There is no room for pessimism or optimism. There is no room for anything. The reason for all of us is to think about this final. We want so much to play it.
Di pensare in questa finale. Vogliamo tanto giocare.
I always said my main focus was to be at Roma, and when I first arrived, I always said I wanted to lift the trophy for this amazing club, and we did this in the first year, which was an unbelievable experience, and we have a chance to do it again. So I'm just looking forward to this final. I'm sure my teammates are, and to bring another trophy to Rome will be.
and totally Mourinho is going to take the 6th final in his pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And all I can say at the end, have a blessed Friday. Take care of yourself. Good night.